next car, truck, or SUV. It's not a tent sale, because no tent is big enough to hold this many cars. It's OcalaForSale.com. Say goodbye to sticker shock. OcalaForSale.com has thousands of vehicles with no stickers at all. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust-proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Beautiful Thursday morning. I hope you're doing well. Our next guest has been with us before, Robin. And,
oh, yeah.
You know, it's gosh, I'm going to make other people feel bad by saying this, but we don't remember every guest. And some guests, they just resonate with you, and you remember them for a long time. Simon Mayo is one of the names that I remember well. He's on the phone right now. He's got a new book. You might remember the first book that introduced us to the main character named Itch. Uh-huh. I can't remember Itch's full name, but anyway, Itch is hard to forget, right? And maybe that's why I remember Simon, because his character's name is Itch. Well, he's got a new book out. This one is called Itch Rocks: The Further Adventures of an Element Hunter. And yeah, that's what he does. He hunts for the elements in the periodic table. Yeah. Wonderful author. I just went on Amazon, and it's already a best-selling book, the one we're going to talk about. Simon, in addition to being an accomplished author, is also one of Britain's best-loved radio broadcasters. Wish I could say that about America. Wish we could. We have a little dot on the map. He's got a whole country.
That's right.
He's the host of Drive Time on the radio, on Radio 2, I guess is what it's called. He's the co-host of Kermode and Mayo's Film Review on BBC Radio. He's done a whole load of things. I don't want to take up his time reading all of his credentials. His book, again, is called Itch Rocks, and let's say good morning to him. Simon Mayo. Good morning, Simon.
Hello, good morning.
Where are you?
I'm in a very small and smelly studio in London town.
In London. Why is it smelly? What's going on?
The air conditioning is packed up, and if I put it on, it makes a big rattly, crackly noise, and you won't want to have that on your radio station.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, I thought maybe the last guy who was in there was just needing a bath, and that's why it was so smelly.
Yeah, that's probably true too.
This is what happens.
So when was the last time you were on? It's been a while, but we do remember you. I'm not just making that up.
It would have been, I guess it would have been about a year ago, which is when Itch hit the shops in the US. So when I say it hit the shops, it was available. So that's when it came out. So I guess it was this time last year, something like that.
And the first book was simply called Itch, right?
That's right, yeah, named after my teenage hero. It's short for Itchingham Loft, which is an unusual name, but hopefully makes it memorable.
Now, the new book, I just went on to Amazon, and it's listed as one of the bestsellers already, which is kind of cool. Let me just kind of go to it real quickly, and I'll tell you what it is. I don't know if this is just America or this is worldwide, but it is. Now, this, for those who don't know about books are typically, when we get a new book and I look at Amazon, it's usually 2 million. And then they slowly climb. So he's already up to 3,557 in total books. Number 68 in children's books. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Number 68.
Yeah, but that's pretty good. I'll settle for being in the top 100. Anything that's in the top 100 sounds pretty darn good to me. That's good. Thank you. I didn't know that. Thanks for the information.
And I don't know how Amazon works. I don't know if it's country by country, but anyway, that's what it says that I'm looking at. And so when did the book come out? It's brand new, right?
Yeah, it just came out last week. So I'm very excited about it, and it's got some pretty far-out stuff there. And I wondered if I could, I know this is slightly unusual. Can I ask you a question, first of all?
Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure whether this is a good line to sell the book or not, but some American friends of mine have suggested, and they've read both books, they've suggested that I describe it as Breaking Bad for kids. Now, in a good way. Now, is that good for you or not?
I would think so, because that is like the really, really hottest series around right now, and they all know about that series, so this is good.
Breaking Bad for kids. See, I'm not up on pop culture.
Yeah, I'm going to say that.
I'm not even on pop culture in my own country, so I'm glad Robin answered that one.
Yeah, this is excellent.
So by saying that, he'll sell a lot more books, right?
I would think so, yeah.
So I have a question about the sales, first of all, because we wanted to talk about the story, of course, but just from the sales point, does having a second book with a popular character, maybe it's too early to know this, but do you think that's what's helping propel the sales?
Well, I think you need to be able to empathize with a character that you're familiar with. Now, I mean, it's always an issue when you're writing a follow-up. How much recap do you put in? You know, you need people can join the story at any time. I've just finished writing the third, actually, so I'm trying to think how much do you explain of what happened in the first book? And
right,
so on.
right.
So, but you know, I think they need to be with and empathize the main character. And I have to say that even if you're not 14, even if you're 44 or 64,
oh yeah,
I think many people will empathize with it. She's a very sort of familiar and recognizable kind of guy.
The only thing that really makes it a children's book is the fact that it's labeled as such. That's my thinking on this. To me, calling it a children's book is only a way to tell parents this is a good book for the kids, but the parents are going to like it too. How many people like Harry Potter? They're all ages, right?
Well, you're absolutely 100% right. To be honest, I started off by, when I started writing the whole thing, I wrote it for my son who was 10 at the time. But after the first chapter, I wrote it for me. And I think whether you're talking about Hunger Games or Harry Potter or Twilight, these are just great stories with great characters. Why should it be only the kids that get to read them, you know? So I think if your lead character is a teenager, it gets labeled as a book for teenagers. But there's some adult themes in here, by which I mean serious themes, you know, like energy. What do we do with the resources that we've been given? How do we look after all that? So there's some serious stuff being discussed in the guise of a page-turning book, which is, yes, it says 12 plus on the cover, but I really think, Larry, like you, that actually it's for everybody.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, what it sounds like your path is similar to ours, and yet I don't know that I would be telling you the truth if I said that I was interested in science. I mean, I am on a surface level, but it seems like you really have an interest in science. Is that new for you?
It absolutely is new for me. Yeah, yes. Well, it's the last 4 or 5 years. What happened is when I was at school, I took very little interest in science. I didn't really pay much attention. When I went to university, I did history and politics. That was my subject. I'm a radio presenter. I play music for a living most of the time and do film reviews, that kind of thing. Now, as we all know, radio presenters are fiercely intelligent people who know a lot about lots of different subjects. But I was not and never have been and don't claim to be a scientist. But if you're going to write a book where the magic, if you like, is science, then you have to make absolutely certain that what you're writing about is true. So I hooked up with a professor of chemistry from University College London and a professor of nuclear physics from the University of Surrey. And between us, we've made sure that if it says in the book there's an explosion and there's white smoke, that's what would happen. If it says that there's a blue flame, that's precisely what would happen. So you can trust the science in itch, and you can trust the science in itch rocks. There's some pretty advanced chemistry in there, written by someone who didn't get a single qualification in chemistry. So that's the challenge.
Weren't there some new elements added to the periodic table, like in the past few years?
Yeah, this process happens a lot, and what happens is these elements. They're all so there are 108. So brief recap: there are 118 elements on the periodic table, and many of the listeners will remember the chart from school, and they'll remember that hydrogen is the first one, maybe, and helium is the second, and gold and platinum. They're all on there, and some dangerous radioactive stuff as well. And at the sharp end, at the top end, we've got up to 118. These elements only exist for a few seconds in labs, and they're created by scientists trying to find more elements, and they think that there are many more to come. These already existed courtesy of a supernova. Basically, everything comes from a supernova anyway. So they're trying to recreate those circumstances, recreate those conditions, which is how I've ended up with my new element for the book, which is element 126, which, although does not exist, it could exist.
It could.
And
so
that's the kind of.
It's almost like being canonized, becoming a saint. It's almost the same process. It's very rare, but now and then there's a new one.
Yeah, very difficult to get it named. I mean, the most unrealistic thing in my book is that the new element is named within weeks. Now, normally that takes many, many decades, and a lot of squabbling and arguing scientists will go on at great length about what a new element should be named.
Really?
I named mine within a few weeks.
Wow. So there you go. I didn't know that.
Well, your enthusiasm for writing really relates to the reader, because you have got to keep your lead character exciting, and then you also have to keep him on the edge of terror, so to speak, because you do have the supporting roles of the characters, and they play just as important a part in the book as Itch does.
Yeah, well, this is the challenge, Robin, because I wanted to come up with, first of all, a lead character that people love, who is Itch, and then, but it could be too boyish, it could be full of explosions and vomit and strange chemical reactions. Yeah, exactly. So it was very important. I've given Itch a younger sister, Chloe, who is 11 in the first book, 12 in the second, and his best friend, who is his cousin Jacqueline, known as Cousin Jack. So it's basically an adventure between the three of them. It's two girls and a boy, and I think that's very important because although I don't know if it's the same in the States, in this country there's an issue with boys and reading. There is also an issue with girls and science. Not enough girls are taking up science.
I think it's true here too, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to tackle both of those things head on, basically.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I think it's true here. And if I just may point out, there's a little delay, which is why it probably seems like I'm talking over you, which I don't intend to do, and I apologize for that. So for those who don't know who Itch is and don't know what the idea here is, we need them to hear you talk about Itch a little bit. Well, you have already, but give us some like movie trailer information so that somebody who's wanting to have a new great book, or if you're already familiar with Itch, you'll be happy to know there's a second one.
Sure. Yes. Thank you for the opportunity. Itchingham Loft is 14 years old at the start of the story, and he is an element hunter. He collects the periodic table. He lives in Cornwall, in the southwest tip of England. It's a very beautiful county. The reason I chose Cornwall is because the whole book, the whole story starts with an earthquake, and there is a history of seismic activity in Cornwall. It also has a history going back hundreds of years of mining. And if you're going to write a story about an element hunter who discovers some very dangerous radioactive rocks, then Cornwall was the obvious place for me to set the story.
Okay.
And so he very early on has to work out, the whole story really is him trying to work out what he has to do with these rocks. There's a lot of scientists want to get hold of them for good reasons, and a lot of bad guys want to get hold of them for very bad reasons. He's basically discovered a nuclear startup kit in a bag,
wow.
And he has to work out what to do with them. And that's the whole thing. That's at the heart of the story.
Can you imagine that if that was true? Oh, goodness.
Right.
Do his parents make an appearance? Are his parents an important part of the story? Are they like the Charlie Brown parents? We don't see them.
Well, there's sort of a convention in these books, which a lot of your listeners will be familiar with, and that is that parents kind of get in the way of these stories, which is why there are so many stories where the parents are dead, or the parents are divorced, or the parents have left their kids behind, or something like this, because parents are annoying like this. They get in the way of the story. But Itch lives at home, and his dad is there sometimes. He works on the oil rigs in the North Sea. His mom is a bit of a distant character. She's a local lawyer. So the parents are there, but their role is minimal, except for there's a key bit early on in the second book, early on in Itch Rocks, where the father plays a very key role. And I don't want to give too much away, but so it's one of the things, and I'm glad you highlighted it, because it's a real challenge for someone writing a story about kids or teenagers. What role do you give the parents? Because frankly, they're rather annoying.
It's your books are wonderful because they always seem to instill the respect of others within your books, because there are so many parents out there that only use their children as adornments, and they just don't think they're smart enough or pretty enough or talented enough, and you really burst that bubble because you really portray the children with their own aspects of life and their own passions for what they want to do.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, They are smart. They're all smart in their different ways. Itch is the one who likes the science. The other kids don't get it at all. Jacqueline and Chloe are far more streetwise than Itch is, and in the second book they're joined by a fourth member of their gang, if you like, who's called Lucy, and she's an important part of the story. But I think the Itch, if he's appealing to people, he is an outsider. He finds it difficult to make friends. You know, he's not at the heart of any gang at all, which is why I think these three are a pretty tight-knit group.
So how does one collect the elements? I mean, the solid ones I can understand, but how do we? Is there a jar full of helium, or how do you do that?
Well,
Secret.
kind of a dangerous hobby at times. It's straightforward for some. Obviously, copper, easy. Silver, easy. Gold, well, you know. Titanium covers most jewelry, so you can add that to your collection. Calcium in shells, zinc in toothpaste. Those things are all fairly straightforward. It depends how purist you want to be, Larry, I guess. You know, if you bottle some air, then you have some oxygen and some nitrogen and some carbon dioxide all there. But if you're going to start isolating, it's going to be difficult and it's going to be expensive. You know, xenon gas, for example, which is we would be mostly familiar with in bulbs, particularly the bulbs that are used in IMAX cinemas for the huge projections. They use xenon gas to get their image as bright and as sharp as possible. Well, I discovered for the research in these books that xenon gas is also an anesthetic, and if you inhale it in enough quantities, you can be operated on. So this was like a godsend. You know, this was fantastic, a great piece of information which landed in my lap. So I used that. I wouldn't recommend experimenting with it, obviously. In fact, these books are full of things that you really shouldn't do at home.
Wow. And if you collect krypton, your Superman's never going to come to your house.
That's right.
I know what I mean. All these elements have fantastic stories attached to them. You know, even the humble ones. You know, even if you're talking about silicon or even if you're talking about zinc, they all have great things, great stories attached to them. Which is why I thought someone else would have written The Adventures of an Element Hunter. You know, I thought it was such an obvious series of stories to write. I was convinced someone had got there before me, and when I discovered that they hadn't, I thought I'd better hurry up and see what I can do.
So is there an end to the series already in your mind, simply because eventually he'll have collected all of them?
Well, I've just finished, this weekend just gone, I just finished writing the third book in the series, which is going to be called Itchcraft. And my plan is to write 4. That's my idea. But the third part of the series is on the way, but the second one is the one that's brand new and fresh. So I guess everything has to end. And I know this might sound really weird and strange, but I'm really fond of these guys. I talk about them and think about them as though they actually exist, which is a really
I believe you do, yeah.
weird thing. But I'm very fond of them, you know, and I don't really want to say goodbye to them just yet.
I'm not surprised, actually. I mean when you create, and we've had this discussion with authors for many years, that when you are the creator of a personality, you really do get to know them as if they're somebody separate.
I'm trying to remember the name of the songwriter who often said that he speculated what the characters in his songs were up to when the song finished, you know, and you do start thinking like that. These characters for me are very real, and I would love to know what happens to them as they grow up. So you need a strong editor to say, you know what, maybe 4 is going to be enough, or to say, you know, maybe there's a 5th one. I don't know. Maybe I'll know when I get there. But at the moment, I'm still loving writing their adventures, and it still gets me up in the morning.
And that shows that you're so genuine, sir, that genuineness overflows into the characters and that bond the characters have with each other. It's true friendship and going through life as a team.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of the closeness that they have. You know, Itch is this loner who then ends up with a fantastically close friend as his cousin, and then Lucy, this friend who's in the year above him at school. ends up as a friend, maybe a girlfriend, and he has a great relationship with his sister. And he has to do that because he hasn't got any friends at school. But I did find myself feeling almost envious of the closeness of their relationship. We have some family friends who had triplets many years ago, and we are godparents to them, and
Aww.
They are now 16, 17, and when I watch them, you notice how I blurred that because I can't remember whether they're 16 or
That's
17.
right. You're good.
Well, when I look at them and they're in and out of each other's lives the whole time, and I think, wow, what a great way to go through life. So I've tried to capture some of that in this family.
Just a writing question real quickly. I'm guessing you write on a computer, a laptop or something?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to write. Well, the first two books, in fact, so the Itch Rocks I wrote on an iPad. The first two books I wrote on an iPad. I've found that, entirely. And for the third one, I've had to be slightly more flexible, and I now write either on a computer or the iPad, or in odd paragraphs on my phone, which I then sort of.
Oh, wow. That must take time. Well, see, what I was going to ask you, because authors typically don't write with a typewriter anymore, and I've often thought because of the way we can use word processing now, that I wonder if you tried to imagine writing with a typewriter, and when you made a change, you had to throw away pages and pages of paper and rewrite it all over again.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't imagine writing like that. I really, really couldn't. I make mistakes the whole time. I make spelling and grammatical errors the whole time. This way of writing was made for people like me. I think if I had to throw stuff away, I would soon get disillusioned and just give up. I mean, it seems. I mean, I know it's the same art that we're talking about, but it seems a whole lot more difficult.
Yeah, it does.
And you have a special app or icon or something on the book jacket.
Oh yeah,
itself.
something about the cover. Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, there's an app which is called Itch Book, and it means that this technology is called augmented reality. Now, I'm not sure that anyone over the age of 15 understands how it works.
Yeah.
But basically what it means is if you download the app, it turns your smartphone, it looks like a camera, and then you hold it up in front of the book cover, and magical stuff happens. On Itch Rocks, the cover explodes into a ball of flame. I mean, not really, but that's the way it looks.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think it's just publishers realize that they have to work harder to attract the attention of this audience. They've got lots of stuff going on in their lives. How do you make them interested in a physical book? The answer is you make the cover do exciting things.
Wow, that is pretty cool. The book, again, is called Itch Rocks. Simon Mayo is on the phone in a small, smelly studio in London town.
And Simon Mayo rocks, by the way.
Getting smellier. Right?
And I just refreshed it. Let's see if your number changed at all on Amazon. No, number 68 in books under Science, Nature, How It Works, children's books. It's number 68. That's pretty impressive.
Very.
And the book just came out.
Get to it. Can I just stay on the air until it gets to 67?
Yeah, I'll just keep refreshing it when it gets to
Sure.
67. So are you doing a lot of these radio interviews all over the world, all over America? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I don't want to make it sound as though this interview isn't special. There are a few other, you've got a big country there, so it takes quite a while to cover everywhere. So yeah, if someone wants to have me on, I feel very proud of these books, and I'm very happy to talk at great length to anybody who will listen. But yeah, yes, it takes a while, but I'm enjoying just talking about these characters, and I'm happy to do it to anyone who wants me to.
And is your son, is he 11 now? How old is your son now?
He's 14 now.
Oh, 14.
So that tells you how
Okay.
long this process has been going.
So while the book is 1 year away from the other book, the writing of it is like 3 or 4 years, isn't it? 4 years.
Yeah. The whole thing takes quite a while, and because I have a day job, because I do a radio show every day, the amount of time I can spend writing is 2 or 3 hours in the morning, and that's about it. So it takes me about 1.25 years to write these things. I wish I could write faster, but I can't. So that's why it takes a while.
Last time you were on, by the way, we listened to you online. We went to, you told us where to go, and now I can't remember what it was, but Let me give away the book that was sent to us. Simon Mayo's new book is called Itch Rocks. It's a big book. It's marketed as a young reader's book, but I promise you, if you like this kind of story, you will love this one. The rest of us have to go buy it. Let me give this one away real quickly. Simon, good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Oh, that's great. This is Mary. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you, Simon. Hey, take care.
Thank you, Mary. It'll be waiting for you.
Hey, Mary,
Bye.
she sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's exciting.
You want to say hi? I think she hung up, maybe. You still there, Mary? No, she's gone.
Yes.
Oh, you
there she
are.
is.
Oh, you are. Simon said you sound great.
Hey, Mary, you
Great,
sound like
thanks.
my kind of person.
Take care.
Thank you, Mary. It's the delay, I think. Well, thank you, Simon, for being on there. Do you have a website?
All the information on Itch and Itch Rocks is on the Sterling website, Sterling being the publishers of the book in the US. I do have a whole bunch of stuff on the BBC website, which people can find, and you can follow me at Simon Mayo on Twitter. But all the Itch stuff is on the Sterling website.
All right. Thank you so much. We've got to run. We've got Fox News coming up. This is WOCA Ocala, The Source. We'll be right back.
Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The president reaffirming our commitment to Japan in its standoff with China over disputed islands. But there's been no deal between our two countries for Pacific Rim Trade Pact.
The president said both nations need to overcome domestic resistance. The president ended his state visit to Japan with a state dinner. Next stop, South Korea on this four-nation tour.
Fox Radio's Alistair Wanklin. 3 American doctors killed at a hospital in Kabul, Afghanistan, officials say by an Afghan security guard. And the FDA looking to crack down on the fast-growing e-cigarette industry.
These new regulations would require manufacturers to submit product and ingredient listings. That is brand new. Include warning labels similar to cigarettes, prohibit the marketing and advertising of these products without FDA review, prohibit claims of reduced risk.